Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first webinar in Bioinformatics Annual Fall Market Intelligence Series, Unlocking the Power of Market Research for Life Science Product Development. I'm Keely Trull, Senior Marketing Manager for Science and Medicine Group, and before we get started, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. First, if you experience any issues throughout the broadcast, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I will work to help you fix them. Second, this presentation will be available on demand after the webinar has concluded. An email will be sent to you with information to access that. That email will also contain the registration links for the remaining webinars in the series, Harnessing Competitive Intelligence for Effective Life Science Go-to-Market Strategies and Pricing Research Essentials for Life Science Go-to-Market Strategies. We hope you'll consider joining us for those sessions as well. Third, we will be taking time to answer questions at the end of the presentation, but please feel free to submit your questions to the Q&A at any time throughout the presentation. Kicking off today's discussion is Damika Williams. Damika is the VP of Market Intelligence at Bioinformatics. Damika, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Keely. For those of you who know me, you know this is not my normal voice, so I apologize. I am a bit under the weather today, but I really wanted to be here to kick off this wonderful educational series. Feel free to introduce yourself and make connections with other participants in the chat. And as Keely mentioned, if you have any questions during the presentation, add them to the questions section and we will answer them at the end. So thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to connecting with you in this session and in our subsequent sessions on competitive intelligence and pricing. I also want to note that during the final session on pricing, we will tie everything together and provide a template for go-to-market strategies. So even if you're unable to join the session live, go ahead and register and we will share the on-demand link and handouts after the session. With that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Erin Brown, who is our Manager of Scientific Advisory Services. Erin works with me and our other science advisors and analysts, designing and implementing custom market intelligence solutions for our client. Erin? Erin, I believe you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
There you go. All right. So what we'll go through today, we'll go through a quick introduction, and then we'll talk about the benefits of market research for product development. We will go over designing effective market research studies, and we'll touch on a case study of some work that we've done here at Science and Medicine Group. And there's some time at the end for question and answers. I also want to thank Cindy Sue. Cindy is our Associate Manager of Insights, and she helped to put these slides together today. So for an effective go-to-market strategy, you are going to need to start by identifying the things in the list that you see here. And we're going to talk today about how market research can help you with each of these things. So the target audience, the group of people that you want to reach, the market fit, how does your product address the needs of your target audience? You're going to need to have an understanding of the competition. So who else is providing similar products or services to that same group of customers? What's the demand? How many people are going to buy the product? Distribution channels, how does the product get from you to the final customer? And what's the price? How much are you going to charge for your products or services? So product development covers the creation of new products with some sort of value, as well as the enhancement of those products or any refinement around the processes that affect those products, whether it's the manufacturing or delivery of those products to customers. Life science market has a lot of challenges, many of which are the same as other industries and some of which are somewhat unique to the life science market. So in most cases, market saturation is an issue that we see a lot of. In any given market, if it's an instrument market, there are usually at least several different competitors that are offering something similar. If it's a consumable market, there's oftentimes an even more fragmented market with a lot of competition. So you need to figure out how can your product stand out among the existing offerings that are out there. And then pricing, how do you set the correct price? How do you compete against other products while maintaining a profit? Global competition, we're seeing emerging markets growing, and how do you compete with the new customer bases, expanded customer bases that are there, as well as the new suppliers that are coming online from those emerging markets. And then other things that are unique to the life science market too, the complex regulatory requirements, the insatiable demand that customers have for innovation, which is driving rapid technology advancements, and along with that, IP protection. These are the three big takeaways. If you don't get anything else from this study, this is what I want you to walk away with, is how market research can help you in identifying market opportunities. So finding those gaps that exist, mitigating risks and reducing product failures. If you have already got an understanding of what customers are looking for in a product, you're a big step away, and making sure that you get those things right before your product launches. And also improving product differentiation and competitiveness. So here's a roadmap of product development, and depending on the product or service that we're talking about, this roadmap could look a little bit different, but many of the steps along the way are going to be similar. You're going to start off with a very new product, and oftentimes you're going to want to begin by identifying unmet needs. And where market research can come into there to help you is with customer surveys or qualitative interviews or a competitor assessment to help you identify those unmet needs. As you move further along and you've done some innovation, you've come up with some ideas, before you make a lot of investments in those products, you'll want to test those concepts. And market research, again, can help. We can do concept testing, we can do focus groups to help you validate whether you're headed in the right direction. Further along, you're going to get to the point where you have a prototype, working products, and we can do feature testing at that point. You've got a little more refined list of what that product is going to look like, but you may still be trying to figure out what exactly are the features that need to be included, what are the most important features to customers, which versions of those features would be best, either individually or in combination. We can also do experience testing. We can get that prototype into the hands of customers, have them use it, see what they do with it, what is their experience as they're hands-on with it. And even as you launch a product, there's going to be questions about marketing, positioning. How are you going to position that product? How are you going to brand it? What's the messaging going to be? What is the price going to be in order to capture the value that you've created? And post-launch, you're still going to want customer feedback, understand if they're satisfied, and establish that feedback loop so that you can continuously improve that product. Here's a few more specific examples of how market research process can tie into the new product development process. So you could be, market research could help you exploring consumer needs and experience, and that helps you with identifying customer views and what their product needs are. Market research can do concept testing. We can determine market sizes. We can determine what product features are important or desired. And that can help you with product concept development and designing what features are going to go into that. We can do testing on consumer usage, and that product testing information can help you refine your product. Brand positioning research to help you develop market strategies, and even customer experience monitoring to help you with product launch and post-assessment after product launches. So let's go through some of the steps that are involved with designing an effective market research study. It starts off by clearly defining your research objectives. So you're going to need to align the business goals that you have as well as the other stakeholders. Make sure that you can be very specific and measurable in the outcomes that you're trying to quantify, understanding what you want to achieve, what success looks like, how you're going to measure success, and prioritizing key objectives. You're going to want to define that research scope and set realistic boundaries. One of the challenges that we see when we're helping customers develop this set of objectives for a successful market research study is that they want to try to accomplish too many things with a single study. So make sure that you're setting realistic boundaries there of what's in scope and what's out of scope. Next, identify your target audience and any segmentation. So who is it that your potential customer is? What exactly are their demographics, their characteristics and behaviors that you want to target? And if you go with whether you're doing this in-house or through a vendor, you want to make sure that you have an understanding of exactly who it is. You don't want to end up with data that comes back and it's from people you're not sure are really going to buy that product. Sometimes that's trickier than others. Sometimes it's really just as simple as I'm selling XYZ, so I want people who are already using products like XYZ. Sometimes you're going after, the research questions and objectives are, I want to convince people to switch from this technology to my technology, in which case you've got to go after a little different customer segment. Choose the right methodology. So we can do quantitative surveys, we can do qualitative interviews, we can do focus groups to get people bouncing ideas around. There's secondary analysis. There is mixed methods where you do more than one of these. And then plan your data collection process. So determine what is the sample size, statistical significance level. Choose the way that you're going to do your sampling method and your recruitment. You need to know the data collection timeline and make sure that that works for your needs, business needs as well. And of course, have a way to do the data management and storage. And lastly, data quality control and validation. I'll go into a little more detail of that on the next slide. So for example, I just delivered some data on a project yesterday. It was a relatively small survey, relatively small sample size of about 200 respondents, quantitative online survey, and that still generated over 100,000 data points. If you look at all the rows and columns that were in the Excel file that came out of that survey. So it is quite a lot of data. You need to have a plan for how you're going to handle missing data. How are you going to identify and remove duplicates if your sampling process allows that to happen? How are you going to standardize the data format so that you can analyze it effectively? What are you going to do with outliers? How are you going to identify outliers? Encoding categorical variables. How are you going to be confident in the data integrity? And how do you test and verify that data? And then for quantitative methods in particular, choosing the data analysis method. So are you using descriptive statistics like averages or distributions? Are you using some type of inferential statistics, hypothesis testing, or regression analysis? And a lot of my work focuses on these quantitative methods, but there are also qualitative analysis too. And sometimes that really is oftentimes that is really the best approach, is more of a qualitative analysis, depending on what types of information you're working with. segment analysis, or is it benchmark comparison? We do some benchmarking. A lot of times you get back the results and you want to ask the question, well, what does that mean? How does that compare to XYZ? And so that would be benchmarking, or sometimes a correlation analysis. Generating actionable insights. And this is, I'm showing it in this order, but when you're designing a study, we want to be doing this at the very beginning. So I think of it similar. A lot of us are from science backgrounds, myself included. Going way back to graduate school, when you're or any experience that you've had in academia science, you are oftentimes working towards a publication as your end goal, not necessarily a product that you're producing, but you've got a list of figures that you want, and you work backwards from there to develop your plan. It's kind of similar. It can be kind of similar in market research. A lot of times we are looking at, okay, what types of information and what is that going to look like on a slide in order to give you actionable information on the decisions that you need. And then how do we work backwards? What kinds of questions do we need to ask? How do we ask them? Who do we ask them from? All the way back to developing your plan. So actionable insights is coming out of the end, but you are making sure that you set up your design from the beginning with those in mind. So here are a few examples of the types of insights that can come out of market research, a good market research study. So you could have a competitor analysis that highlights the strengths and weaknesses of competing products in the market. You're thinking about the types of data visualization that are going to make the most sense to get the takeaways that you need. What types of charts, what types of graphs or tables. Are you looking at user personas and user stories? So what types of information do you need, and how do you develop that into personas based on customer insights and segmentation data? How do you create user stories that outline specific scenarios and needs for each persona to help them inform product features and design? Are you looking at trying to prioritize features? So prioritize the product features and improvements that align with customer needs and preferences. You could have a need to categorize features into must-have, nice-to-have, or future enhancements to guide that roadmap. Figuring out what your minimum viable product is versus features that can come later. And then recommendations suggest specific design changes, enhancements, or new features that address the identified customer needs and pain points, and align those recommendations with the overall business objectives. And of course, you're going to need an implementation plan. So outline that implementation plan, and it should detail how the insights are going to be incorporated into the product design and the development process. Make sure you include timelines, responsibilities, and resource requirements to ensure a smooth execution. Okay, let me go through a case study of a project that we worked with recently here at Science and Medicine Group. And I have de-identified this a little bit, so I'm leaving out some details here. But we had a client, company XYZ, they're getting ready to launch a revamped version of a lab instrument. And let's say this lab instrument automated certain processes. Again, I'm leaving out some details here. They had an existing product line that was very budget friendly, very easy to use, and very reliable. They needed to understand the perceptions of potential customers, what their needs were, what their drivers were, what their motivators were, and they wanted to measure receptivity towards the new product. So they were getting close to launch, but there were still some finalization of features that needed to be done, and they wanted to take this step to make sure that they were armed with the knowledge that they needed to really make a successful product launch. We decided to do both quantitative and qualitative approach for achieving those objectives. We identified together with the client who the correct target audience was and what segments were important. They really wanted a global audience. They wanted it to be North America, Europe, and China. We wanted to make sure that these were people that were automating processes in their labs so that this product would be relevant to their needs. And we were going to touch on really the purchase process and the price. So we wanted people that were involved in making purchase decisions in the labs. The sample size that we decided would work best for this was 400 people for the quantitative survey and 30 qualitative interviews. There were quotas on how we sampled those, and we relied on our science advisory board for doing the recruitment. Very briefly, some of the insights that came out of this. When we measured brand awareness, we knew that it was not going to be high. What we found was that it was even lower than we thought. And there were several other brands that were perceived to be the leaders in the market. This particular client had not done a lot of market research recently, and so they knew directionally how this was, but when it was quantified, it really created some new insights, and they realized that they needed to take action on this particular item having such low brand awareness. We tested some of the product features, and we found out what features were the most important, and got an understanding of which ones should be potentially promoted in market materials and maybe which ones to prioritize during the product development roadmap. We showed a concept of the product both in in-depth qualitative interviews as well as in the quantitative survey. What we found that the product concept as a whole was received very well. Customers loved the product. They were highly likely to consider purchasing it. And there were certain application areas in particular where it seemed to be really an ideal fit. We also got some information on pricing. This one was a little bit surprising too. We had talked about how the brand and the product line was known for being pretty budget friendly. They were going to, this new and improved version of the product that was going to come out was only going to have a very incremental price increase. And the feedback that we got from customers was that they actually questioned the quality of it based on the price that they were seeing. They were wondering if there was something that they couldn't understand, couldn't see, that was making it an inferior product. And on that last point, so here is kind of an example of an output that comes from studies like this. This one is using a Van Westendorp methodology in particular. And in that, we find not only an optimal price point based on what customers think is a fair price to buy, but these specific 4 other pain points. So from right to left, what price is it where these most of the potential customers start to think that this is too expensive, they're not going to buy it? What's the price where it's expensive but it's worth it? What's the price where it's a great buy for the money, it's a good bargain? And what's the price that there is a price where it becomes so cheap that they start to question the quality? And that price right there is right around where the company had planned to price it when they went to the market. So what actions was our client able to take? So company XYZ on price, they decided to increase the price of the product in order to make sure that it conveyed the value to the customers. Not a lot, but incrementally, and they were still able to maintain the positioning that they always had, that they were a budget-friendly brand, budget-friendly product line, but not so cheap that people were questioning the quality. On the brand awareness, they realized that they really needed to invest in increasing awareness. So they launched a marketing campaign. They took these products on the road and got them in the hands of potential customers, did demonstrations. And then they were able to target the messaging of advertising to different customer segments now that they knew what the differences were and importance to the different customer segments. And they were also able to, one feature in particular they found was supposed to be near the end of their roadmap on product development. They realized how valuable it would be, and so they moved it up. It wasn't at the product launch, but it is going to be something that they develop in the next version rather than much further down the road, which is what they had originally planned. So here's some examples. Think about what you want your achievable outcomes to be more so than what you see here. And this is just an example, but what are you looking for? Is it market leadership, increased market share? And what types of market research is going to help you to understand what your position is and what you need to do in order to achieve that? Are you looking for a strong competitive position, a strong brand perception? What types of market research can get you the information that you need to understand what your positioning is, what the perceptions are from customers, or maybe just where the white space is among other customers on where you want to position. Global market penetration. So do you need to reach out to other global audiences and potential customers there to understand what their needs are in order to do that? All right, in summary, what we would advocate for you then is customer-centric product development. So innovating, but doing it in such a way that you are in touch with the customers, understanding their needs, understanding their pain points and preferences, making sure that products are really tailored to meet their specific requirements, be able to increase their satisfaction and adoption. Prioritize the features and pricing based on the insights that you get from market research. So you want to be able to create products that resonate with the target audience and gain a competitive advantage. And this is all about data-driven decision making. So don't do this flying blind. If you're doing market research, you're getting the data that you need to make these informed decisions, confidence to make those investments that are going to be needed to have a successful product development. Use market research as a catalyst for growth. Successful case showcases how it can have a transformative impact on your product success, on market penetration and revenue growth. And companies that prioritize market research as an integral part of their product development strategy are better positioned to adapt to market dynamics and capitalize on emerging trends. All right, are there any questions?
Great, thank you, Aaron. So at this time, we'll jump into the Q&A. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and put your questions in the chat. If for whatever reason we don't get to your question, we will follow up with you after the webinar has ended. So yep, now's a good time to go ahead and start putting your questions in the chat or in the Q&A panel.
And I'll just show, while we're waiting, I'll show some of the capabilities that Science and Medicine Group has.
Okay, so Aaron, we do have a question. It says, if you work for a company that does not have the resources to do market research, how can you do market research on a small scale?
Well, I think what we're advocating here most is being in touch with customers. So there are always ways that you can do that on a budget. You can be reaching out to your own customers and at least getting feedback from people who have used your product, or tapping into your networks to talk to people. And it's about data-driven decision making. So making sure that you reach outside of your organization to get some of that information. Here at Science and Medicine Group, we also do have some budget-friendly products like Rate My Product, which is kind of a template for reaching out to customers and showcasing your product and getting some feedback, quick feedback from a lot of scientists on our panel to doing it. So no matter what your budget is, whether you're talking about a big custom research project or whether it's a more budget-friendly product from a third-party agency like us who can do blinded, double-blinded studies without bias. But even if you can't do that, I do highly recommend, at least reach out to your own customers. Even if there is some element of bias, you really want to be in touch with the end customer and getting information. Establish that feedback loop.
Great, thank you, Aaron. So another question that's come in the chat is, what is the Science Advisory Board? Is it a scientist panel that you use to collect data, and do you provide global data?
Yes, the Science Advisory Board is our proprietary panel. So over the last 25 or more years, we have had the Science Advisory Board and recruited people. It is a scientific community. They use a lot of the products that our clients sell. And so they're an opportunity to reach out to people who are non-customers from you, so that you're going off of your customer list and reaching out to people who are using competitor products potentially, so you get that broad sampling. And they participate in both qualitative interviews as well as quantitative online surveys. It is a global audience. Yes, we have people in North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific.
Great, thank you, Aaron. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. If not, then we will go ahead and wrap up for today. So as mentioned, please consider joining us for our remaining webinars. Those registration links will be provided to you via email once this webinar has concluded. Additionally, a PDF of the slides from today's webinar can be found in the handouts section of your control panel. So we do encourage you guys to download that. Thank you all so much for joining us, and everyone have a great rest of your day.